Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for new stories from Yellowcat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. What things have happened at your job that you just did not think were possible? Part 2. I used to work as an off-phone rep for a local telco. My job consisted of mostly answering customer emails and providing information from the billing system to other departments that didn't have access or training to use the software. The vast majority of emails we received contained requests that we couldn't perform via email, such as name changes, service changes, or anything that required validating the emailer's identity. I point out that we didn't do it to be mean, we had just been sued over making changes via email for a disgruntled ex-wife trying to F with her ex-husband. We didn't have a way to verify identity to a degree that pleased the court. Since most of these emails required us to call them, or for them to call us, I wrote a macro that would let me tag those emails and bomb them out with a form letter. It would also drop their name in a callback queue for the CSRs if they weren't completely swamped. This process used to take off-phone reps about a minute or two per email. Typically, a rep would complete 30 emails an hour, 45 if you were really speed reading. The day I implemented the macro, I hit 287 emails an hour. After taking some time to analyze common words and template response emails with a diff tool, I later boosted my throughput to 6,200 emails a shift while still running errands for legal and other departments. My manager's manager S-bricks when he saw our metrics. This also inadvertently led to most of the off-phone reps going back to on the phone. About the same time, I was moved to a different department that needed some automation in its workflow, so I didn't see much of their scowls. Don't be mad when a small script replaces your job. I cooked a lobster tail in the microwave, and the bartender called me and my coworker out into the dining room so the customer could tell us it was the best he had ever eaten, and Red Lobster has nothing on you. In our defense, there should have been 5 cooks and there were only 2 of us, and the oven and steamer were both broken, so everything got microwaved that day. Well, one day I was walking into work and I found a piece of paper on the ground. I went to reach for it and ended up getting a paper cut. I thought, well, that sucks. Now it's gonna be irritated all day. So I get into work, and as I'm climbing the stairs, wouldn't you know it, I tripped and skinned my shin. I thought, well, this just isn't my lucky day. So I go to the bathroom and clean up the scrape. As I'm walking out, I slip and hit my head on the sink. Now I have a paper cut, a skinned knee, and a huge bump on my forehead. I think, wow, I don't know how this day will get any worse. I go to my desk and do some work, then I realize I need to go copy something. Now, as I'm copying, I lean over into the paper intake and wouldn't you know, it sucks up my tie and rips it clean off. That was my favorite tie. I go sit down in defeat at my desk and realize that this day just sucks. I continue my work, but don't get much done all day. It's almost the end of the day and I get a letter. I reach for my letter opener and start opening the letter, and wouldn't you know it, it slips and cuts my thumb right open. I think, well, there's a hospital right across the street. I think I'll walk. As I walk over, I trip on the curb and fall into the street. I stumble and get back on my feet, but it's too late. Some dumb teenage girl isn't paying attention to the road and slams right into me. All I can think at that point is, well, accidents happen. I work at a frozen yogurt shop, so people are usually happy when they come into the store, which means, unlike my old job at McDonald's, that it's mostly a bearable place to work. One afternoon, shop is moderately busy, a man comes in, jokes around with my coworker, asks her if he can leave a bag behind the counter for like 10 minutes. She says yes. He leaves the bag, backpack, and goes. 5 minutes later, my coworker is counting the drawer and I'm out front having missed the whole first exchange. A woman at least 10 to 15 years older than him comes in and says, "My husband left a bag behind the counter. I just need to put something in it. I'll bring it right back." This is a little odd, but you can't see the bag from the front of shop, so she had to have known it was there, and I saw her come in from across the parking lot, so she couldn't have been watching the man's and my coworker's exchange. So I say sure, she takes the bag and goes over to a table and I help a customer, so I just hear her say thanks and put the bag back. Then she goes to the bathroom and then gets some yogurt. Then 10 or so minutes later, she's still back by the yogurt machines. The man comes back in and he's effing furious. The first thing he says when he comes in the door across the store is, "You be." It's low in tone but venomous, and the woman clearly hears it. She says something else back and moves towards the front of the store. They argue for a moment, really viciously but with a low volume, and I hear him say F a few times, and then he grabs her arm, drags her back to the counter, and grabs the bag. Now, this guy is much younger than the lady and bigger in build, so I wasn't sure if he was her husband or some sketchy dude. Remember, I was in the back when he came in the first time. I say, "Excuse me," but they are arguing again, and this time, she hits him across the face and the volume of their argument is rising. I'm still not sure if this dude is stealing the bag or what, and so as they start to leave, I say more loudly, "Excuse me!" The man turns around, snarls "F you, B" quite loudly in front of my 15 other customers, 3 of whom were under the age of 5 or 6, and leaves. An old man in line to be rung up goes, "Hey!" and some college kids who just paid stand up from their chairs. A moment later, the wife of the old man says, "Hold on to those, we're just going to go check on that," and hands me their yogurt, and she, the old man, and the college kids go out and beat up the guy in the parking lot. Like, first they're all lecturing him, and then he goes to punch the old man, and the college kids get him in a headlock and are talking really lowly to him, and the old man says something, and the man goes really pale, and they let him go. Then they say something to the woman, who goes equally pale, and comes back inside and pay for their yogurt like they didn't just lay down the smack in the parking lot. What the F? I wrote a novel during work hours using a work PC, researching it using work internet access and printing draft copies for line editing on work printers. I'm now working on my second novel in the same cubicle and recently got a 5% pay rise. I work for the not US government, and for some reason, the amount of work required by me is about 1/8 of the hours I am contracted to be at work. I take breaks when I feel like it, and no one cares when I turn up or when I go home. I have 5 managers. A buddy of mine accidentally added a $5 million excavating truck to our warehouse inventory. The way our stocking system was set up, each part had a unique code of 2 letters followed by 4 numbers. Anyway, he was adjusting some return parts back into our inventory and meant to adjust a certain part back in, but entered a wrong letter. The part he meant to put in the system was about $12, and the part that was 1 letter different was a $5 million truck. Company policy was that we could only adjust up to $500 in inventory and had to report all adjustments over $300. Anything higher had to be done by people in the front office. Needless to say, people kind of threw a fit when they saw a random extra $5 million in inventory with no explanation. We all had a laugh about it though. One of the rare good times there. That happened to me one time when I was selling cars. An old man came in and bought a car off me. A few days later, his son came in with some documents saying we had to take the car back because he was nuts. What makes it worse is that my lunatic sales manager knew this guy was nuts and that this would happen and proceeded with the sale anyway. I got charged back like $250. Working the customer service booth at a grocery store. I answer the phone. "Hello, B and Grocery, this is Sleeping Gecko speaking, how may I help you?" "I'm 81 years old and I trusted you." "I'm sorry ma'am, what happened? What went wrong?" Over the course of an hour and multiple phone calls, an elderly woman cussed me out and called my credibility into question because she purchased oranges that did not meet her highest standards. Not only was she upset that the oranges were not tasty, I immediately offered her a total refund, exchange, etc. She accused me of pulling a bait and switch scam. In her words, "What is this? You put out the good oranges, then when someone tells all their friends to buy them, you put out this crap?" I'm sorry, ma'am, that you had a negative citrus experience, but I can assure you there was no intent to trick or deceive you. "You know dang well what you're doing down there!" I used to manage a copy and print department, and one day I had this very innocent-looking 70-ish-year-old lady come in. She had me copy several covers to cleaning/repair manuals for various rifles, pistols, and assault weapons. Now, this wasn't too out of the ordinary since my store was the closest copy place to our county fairgrounds where, in the Midwest, we have gun shows about every month. Less than a week later, she came back with a slightly odder print job. Covers for about a half dozen homemade explosives manuals, tactical tags for maps marking IEDs, enemy/friendly units, rally and objective points, etc., and detailed maps of our local Air Force base. Clearly, this sent up a few red flags, but for some reason, refusing to copy them for her just didn't seem safe. After she left, I notified my regional manager and the FBI. 2 agents were at my store in less than 15 minutes and they ghosted and erased the hard drives on my copiers, and I spent the next 2 hours answering questions. I got a call from one of the agents a few days later with a few final questions and the standard "thanks for doing this service to your country." Never did hear anything related to this incident again though. Not that I didn't think it was possible, but was I upset. A couple came in one night, late 40s, and stayed in the bar area for hours making out. They were drunk off their A's, and their idiot server, she doesn't work there anymore, continued to give them alcohol. A big no-no. My boss was having issues with the computer system that night and wasn't aware of the situation. I brought it upon myself to let her know because I'm a huge anti-drunk driving advocate. Anyway, I told my boss not to get the server in trouble, but because it was the right thing to do. This couple was just disgusting. You could tell they had money, but apparently no class at all. The woman was practically humping this guy, and he was falling backwards into the window and getting tangled up in the blinds. The 2 of them started to leave without paying, and my boss stopped them. She had them sit on a bench outside while she called a cab. The man insisted he was good to drive, even though he was stumbling and slurring. The woman was practically gone. My boss spoke very clearly and informed them that she was responsible for making sure the 2 of them left safely. They argued with her, but eventually accepted their fate. She said she would call the cops if they tried to leave. Oh, and she forced them to pay their tab too. Someone just reminded me of a good one. I was a contract slave for a computer manufacturer with a household name and a trademarked color. They were developing a new class of server machine that was slated to sell over $100,000 each. We managed to get an early prototype for testing software. It handmade one of the first packed into an actual case, so it's really important to put a value on it, but it was at least $500,000, probably more. I was working late one night, the last one in the lab. One of the full-time employees came in and tinkered with the expensive machine while I was busy coding away. A bit later, she asked me to see what was wrong with it. The dialogue went roughly like this. Her: I put the memory in like they said, but it stopped working. Me: you mean it won't boot up after you added more memory? Her: no, should I try shutting it off? She added memory to a live mainframe class server. This machine did not have hot swappable memory. They had power tools in the lab the next day, tearing the system down, tracing down what all was fried and replacing it. I have no idea how she kept her job. If you want to watch the part 1, click the link here. Thank you for watching. Guys, thank you for all the support and the likes. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. See you next time.